person of today's last session, Professor Sashmita Das ma'am, Assistant Professor, Postgraduate Department of English, Hooghly Motion College, West Bengal, India. She is going to handle the session entitled Role of Literature, Review and Formulating Research Hypothesis, a short discussion. I welcome you, ma'am. Now I invite Ms. Ilakia to introduce our special guest.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm very much happy to introduce today's chief guest, Professor Sharmishta Das. She was educated at the University of Burdwan, India, where she obtained her master's degree with a gold medal, and now she is pursuing her research work independently. She is teaching since 13 years in graduate and postgraduate levels in government colleges and government-aided colleges. Presently, she is teaching under West Bengal Education Service as an assistant professor in postgraduate Department of English in Hooghly Motion College, West Bengal, India. Her areas of interest are postmodern British literature, media studies, and indigenous studies. She has extensively contributed to national and international journals and books. Currently, she is involved in reviewing articles and poems for an upcoming anthology on the present pandemic situation. Her other cultural preoccupations are music, photography, an ethno-traveler, and a passionate collector of multiple kinds of fabric. She is also a social worker engaged with Satsang Ashram of Diogra. We are very much pleased to have you here today, ma'am. And now the session is yours.
Good evening, all of you. You have to just confirm, and thank you for that such a warm introduction that you have given about me. And as I can see, the number of participants in this call have crossed 100. So this is the last session of this entire course, and still you have retained these number of participants. So that itself is an achievement. And I'm extremely happy to be, because we are part of an academic fraternity. And we are all wading through a critical time when we can't engage in a face-to-face interaction directly on a real platform. So I would really thank, people like Mr. Rajan Sylvest, who actually invited me personally to come here and speak. And of course, also the entire team who works with him, this College of Tamil Nadu, which has whose R&D cell has worked tirelessly to put up this course and overcoming all sorts of challenges that we can come together on a digital platform is itself a human victory over all odds. So my thanks to all these people who are continually struggling to defeat any sorts of crisis and ensure that the academic fraternity are always together on whatever platform, online, offline, virtual, real, we are together, and that is what matters. And I'm very happy to be a part of that. And to my dear participants, I can understand the kind of feeling that you must be having. See, this is the last session of the last day. So we have all been parts of such courses. We know that feeling. There is a mixed feeling. One is that you are relieved that thank God this 7-day long course is now finally come to a closure, and hopefully a good closure. And also there, from tomorrow you will actually maybe miss the usual routine which you got habituated with in the last 7 days, isn't it? So this is a kind of mixed feeling of a relief and also a sort of sadness, a little bit of sadness. From tomorrow, maybe a day or two, you will miss your routine of having classes in the courses that you had in the last 7 days. So I am posited in that position where I will be bidding you goodbye to you, and this whole course will be bidding you goodbye. So I hope to make this course of you memorable with my talk, which will be on, as you know, literature review, which is a part of research work and a very vital part. And I'll just take a minute from you people with your permission so that I can start my slide. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. So actually, I'm constantly paranoid over this thing whenever it's a slideshow, that whether things are visible or not, whether it's working or not, because after all, this is technology and not 100% within our control. Okay. So it's visible, so I can start, right? Okay. So I have your heads up, because I cannot actually see any of your faces. I can only see my slides, so that's why you just have to, tell me, just unmute yourself, chairperson, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Chairperson,
Yes, ma'am.
whoever. Okay, fine. Okay. So I will be talking on literature review, and literature review. The first question, of course, there are you do have a brief idea on what is of about what literature review is. I will be elaborating it and maybe polishing your already existing idea a little more. My contribution will be that much. And the questions that I would want you to carefully consider before getting into the process. We have done, all of us have done projects at different levels of our curriculum, starting from our honors and then masters. And if any of you have done B.Ed, then our MPhil, then PhD, and then thereafter, if any of you all have gone. So we have been doing projects since we were very young. And with or without our knowing of the terminology, that is literature review, we have always engaged in this task of reviewing the related literature and finding the necessary connection, necessary link, and also the taking the cues, help, clue, perspectives, ideas from the available literature on a selected topic in order to frame and crystallize and go and formulate the research that we have, the topic that we have decided to work upon. So before we embark on our individual research work, we always consider, and we always go through the related literature. But it is not just a personal going through or an informal going through of related literature where the process ends. It has to be documented very formally. So these are the questions that you can already see. What is a literature review and what purpose does it serve? Why is it such a vital component of research? What are the various ways it can be realized, and what does the process of completing a literature review involve? So for our convenience, we can break it down in two forms, let's say. The finished product, which is the formal way of cataloging all the related literature that you have consulted, that you have gone through while doing or completing your research work. And it is the finished product which comes in your final draft is the finished product. But what about the process which you undertake? The process of reading, the process of thinking, the process of churning it, brainstorming, and bringing out the relevant points, bringing out the research gap, this entire process, and not just the process which you carry with your mind and with your pen and with your paper. So these are the three things we have: our mind, our pen, and a paper. So with these three things, we carry on the process of literature review from the moment we embark on a project work, on a research work. And what do? We start taking notes. We start writing down that, these are the topic, these are the related work. It may be by critics, scholars, journalists, reviewers. Whatever the nature of your work is, that will determine the kind of literature that you are consulting as a reference. And so then after you accumulate them in a place, you start evaluating them. So apart from the finished product, the earlier process, which is the process, you can tell, quote unquote, of formulating your literature review, what is the process like? It is both a collocation, an accumulation, a cataloging of all the relevant literature that you have studied, that you have gathered, that you have found, and that you consider to be relevant to your work, and then your evaluation. and then your evaluation, that you from the available body of literature, you start engaging in a dialogue with the available research in a written dialogue, and then from there you crystallize out your relevant connecting points, and those are the ones which you put in a consolidated form, in an evaluated form, in your literature review. So it is in mostly in humanities or social sciences, they are evaluative in nature. Whereas, of course, in other subjects, they are more of a documented statistical information, which are interpreted later on, but initially they are just given in toto or verbatim as whatever information they are, as they are found in the exact form. So it is both an accumulation of data as well as evaluation of data. Okay, so these are the, the names are also there. There are, plenty of definitions. This is a complex phenomena, as we all know. So the definitions also vary. But finally, it all boils down to that one idea that it is it is a background study, or study of the relevant literature. Relevant literature means not literature in that sense, but the knowledge box, the knowledge, paraphernalia that exists about the certain topic, the specific topic that you have chosen. And it is the study, the approach that you have taken to take the relevant literature and utilize it in your own way. It is this process that is literature review, and which you finally formally inculcate and include and incorporate in your research work. So this is the final definition that it boils down to. That can be approached from different points of view, from different perspectives, and there are plenty of definitions, as we know. Okay, so as I was talking, that at different degree levels we have to approach project works, isn't it? So I'm sure my audience comprises maybe of people from all degree levels. And we as teachers, we also have to cater to people starting from the BA, from the students of the undergraduate course up to the MPhil degrees, or maybe even PhD. But the literature review for individual degrees will definitely vary in its approach, and in its in tackling the issue will definitely be different for a BA student than from a PhD student. So let's take a very brief look at these differences. So see, if I'll tell you with examples, okay, because these terms are mostly terms, they are concepts. So I will hopefully be able to clarify them through examples. Okay, so see, regarding a BA student, because I myself am from humanities, so I'll be referring, my examples will all pertain to literature, because that's the thing I know. So supposedly you are, an undergraduate student is asked to do a project on, maybe, let's take an example, the easiest of the thing, say Shakespearean sonnets, a few Shakespearean sonnets. So what is the candidate then expected to do? If she is a BA at an undergraduate level project work, then maybe what the candidate can maximum do as literature review is that look at the general Elizabethan scenario of sonneteering, and then write about the works of Sidney Spencer and the other sonneteers who were there during the Elizabethan period. Talk a little about the Petrarchan tradition of sonneteering, the Italian tradition, which we are all indebted to for the sonnet form, and then get into the analysis of the particular sonnets of Shakespeare, not all of them, maybe 5 or 6, that he or she has chosen to work on. Okay, so for a graduate level student, the focus on the topic and just a brief description about its genre will be enough, not more than that. Just a little bit higher up in class, supposedly an MA student. a master's student. We in most of the syllabi of our country, a master's student is expected to do a full paper, a term paper, which they call, which is of 5,000 words, and which is sufficiently long and is a very almost a micro form, a miniature form of an MPhil writing. That is just to my, they are taught in the very masters, they are taught this style of writing projects and thesis, so that in their future course they have it easier in MPhil and in PhD. That is why a microcosmic form of the thesis that is undertaken in the MPhil and PhD is already done in the masters. So there, supposedly taking an example, as I have seen the students in my college, the kind of topics they are encouraged to take, or they take, and how they have to cover it up with a particular theoretical framework. Supposedly they take up, novels of Jane Austen. Not all the novels, that will be a PhD, maybe one novel or maximum two novels of Jane Austen, or maybe maximum two novels of Hardy, or maybe two drama of George Bernard Shaw, or things like that, one or two texts of a particular writer. But it has to be backed up. The analysis has to have that framework of a theoretical concept. Like what Jane Austen, all of us are familiar with Jane Austen, so that's why I'm taking these names. All of us are familiar with Hardy. So the more often theoretical frameworks that are applied to these novelists are, for Jane Austen, I have seen it is the feminist aspect, and also the Marxist aspect, and also maybe along with feminism and Marxism, because these days studies are all intersectional. You can add on some little of psychoanalysis, or maybe a somewhat new approach I have seen for a Hardy novel is the eco-critical approach. So you have to have one theory, where one or two, where you have to show the cross section or the relativity of the two theories and how they can be used to study the given text. Like Passage to India, so very well known, the colonial post-colonial perspective is the established perspective to study Passage to India. But even within the post-colonial perspective, you can take up the subaltern aspect of the inability of the subaltern's ability to speak. So that is how to narrow down your topic, even when you have chosen a theory which is a rather discursive and an extended theory. So then what that student is expected to do? Obviously, there are plenty of material. You cannot exhaust all the materials. That is not what a student is supposed to do or expected to do. That is not humanly possible by anybody. That you exhaust the materials that are available in internet or in libraries, everything that has been written about the feministic study of Pride and Prejudice of Jane Austen, or the post-colonial analysis of Heart of Darkness or Passage to India. That is not what is expected. Rather, the ones, not many maybe, but because you have to also think about the word limit. Maybe the literature review of an MA student can be of maximum 1,000 words, because it's a 5,000 word project where you ought to devote maybe 1/5 of the part to literature review, where you can take up a few, maybe 4 or 5 such articles which analyze this particular text from your chosen theoretical angle, and by studying them you set off on your own theoretical fixed point, and then you go on with your methodological issues, and you demonstrate that what is the somewhat added perspective that you are giving to the already existing feminist understanding of the Jane Austen's text of Pride and Prejudice. Now, when the question comes to PhD, this very same thing becomes a lot more elaborate. The very same thing becomes a lot more elaborate, where it is not just about inclusion of your knowledge about the related literature, but also how you have discovered a research gap. That is very essential. We will talk about that in our subsequent slides. Okay. So this is where, through this portion, I will talk about how we use it in generally in a thesis for PhD students. Where do we find the literature review in a dissertation or thesis for an MPhil or PhD, or maybe even for a master degree student? So there are two main approaches, which are, one is the dedicated, the other is the recursive. Again, I will show you with examples. In the first approach, the literature review is included in a chapter or a series of chapters, and frequently with topic related titles near the beginning of the thesis. So it is already, I mean, structurally speaking, you have your chapter division where you devote and dedicate. That is why it is called dedicated. The thing is called dedicated approach. You dedicate one whole chapter. You can have subdivisions in that chapter, but one whole chapter is dedicated to your literature review. Mostly it is their structures posited in the beginning, right after the introduction. The second approach, of course, is a little more, what should I tell, is more effective for those candidates who wish to study very thoroughly and who wish to show the relevance or the relativity of the literature, existing literature, to their own work in each section of their literature, in each section of their project. So how that can happen, I'll show you with example. Here, the second approach with the literature review likely to reappear at various points in the thesis. It might begin in the introduction and then continue at the start of each chapter, where each chapter might begin with an overview. Okay, where each chapter, supposedly a student takes up, a PhD student takes up a topic like the eco-critical reading in select novels of Thomas Hardy, or maybe diasporic reading in select novels of Kiran Desai or Anita Desai, or the picture of womanhood in novels of Anita Desai. So then what that candidate in this second approach can very effectively do is that in the different areas that the chapter division that she has made, will each of the chapter division will have some existing study, which we call literature review. So before starting each novel, analysis of each novel, the selected novels that the candidate is dealing with, she can include an overview of the already existing literature. So that then what will happen, the second approach which I'm talking about, the whole thesis will be interspersed with snippets of literature review in the forms of overview before the beginning of each chapter. So that will make the research work extremely grounded in tradition, in the existing literature review, and continually remind the reader that how connections have been drawn and how the tradition have been kept along with the tendency of the candidate to bring out his individual talent. Because after all, to quote from T.S. Eliot, we all of us would like to believe that we are doing something very individual, something very new. It is new in some sense, but it is also, has to be very grounded in tradition, because after all, it is research, isn't it? So re-search in that way. So then in the second approach, we are in a more sound position to place our research work with each section related to the available literature, showing how very well grounded we are in the tradition of the literature that is already available for that part of the study. So this is just an introduction. This is a dedicated chapter. See, introduction, and then you have chapter. There's only one chapter, introduction, and within the introduction, you have the literature review, where there are subdivisions, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. This was a research done in Malaysia on the lingual aspects of Malaysia, the multicultural and the multilingual aspects, and how the ethnic blending and the origin and influence of Creole language, and how a detailed study of the situation of language, exercise amongst the natives of Malaysia. That is the research topic, and how, of course, the literature review included a thorough research on the existing situation of the Creole and the language and the historical background and the settlement issues of Malaysian natives. Okay, and this is even simpler. This is even simpler, where you have, you see, the chapter 2 after introduction, you have chapter 2 literature review introduction, and this is on a notion of sustainable development about some projects of geography. So there you have only one chapter, that is in literature review as chapter 2 2.1, where you give the introduction, and the literature review continues up to only two segments of chapter 2 introduction and the notion of sustainable development. Here the literature review has been limited to just one chapter. This was the second approach that I spoke about. And here, as you can see, it consists of a number of different research studies, and literature review is likely to begin in the introduction and then continue at the start of each different study. The reviews before the individual research studies generally elaborate in more detail on the topics raised in the introduction. See, chapter 3, integrating theories of goal achievement. This is a psychosocial study of children's behavior. Overview, models of goal achievement, 3.2.1 theory of planned behavior, and even chapter 4 begins with overview. Chapter 5 begins with overview. Okay, so every chapter, whatever the issue is there, interplay between volition and motivation. Chapter 5 begins the mechanism underlying implementation intention. So this is, the whole thing is a psychosocial study of children's behavior, where each and every chapter is interspersed with a literature review section, because I believe that this kind of study is based on survey which might have been conducted online or offline, direct interview to understand children behavior, and how each of these surveys are very vital in signaling the developing thesis that comes under each chapter. So that is why here in this kind of researches, which is so discursive and which is so spread across, literature review cannot be limited to just the beginning of the research. Okay, so now, of course, you will determine which approach to choose, and your supervisor will definitely help you. The literature review, whether it's a distinct chapter or it is, it recurs in different parts of your thesis, will be chosen by you. A careful consideration of the kind of the methodology, particularly the methodology that you choose, whether it will be a quantitative data analysis of collecting data through different online or offline ways of interacting with the issue that you have chosen to research upon, whether children's behavior, or whether a community service, or mostly sociological issues require topics require the educational learning of second language or pronunciation emphasis. These are the topics sociolinguists or historical scholars, they take up, and where you actually cannot conduct the research without going through an extensive survey. So there, I think the second approach is an absolute must. Okay, so now coming to the multiple purposes of a literature review. We do know what the purposes are, but sometimes it's good to just have a consolidated look at those purposes. And I will give you examples. I hope to keep in time. Generally, I am not a very punctual person, but please remind me when it is 5 minutes to 8, because this is the last session and I would not like to stretch it more than it already is. Okay, so I have, I think, 20 minutes time. Okay, I'll tell you with examples, most of them. The multiple purposes of a literature review. Hopefully my sound is not cracking and there are no glitches and I'm perfectly audible and visible.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You're very perfect. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's a compliment. I'm perfect. Well, none of us are perfect, but we all wish to be. Thank you. But anyways, thank you. It's a real. Yeah, it's a feedback which really helps, when we are talking in an online platform, because I'm not being able to see anybody's face, the gestures. As you can understand, this itself is the biggest drawback of an online platform.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyways, yeah, so that is why ma'am's feedback, even your voice, that enlivens me actually, because I'm not I'm not getting to see anything. This is the sad part, a very sad part. Anyways, hopefully this we will overcome in the near future. Okay, so the multiple purposes of a literature review. It provides a historical background for your research. It gives an overview of the current context. I'll be quick in reading and then I'll go to the example part. It gives an overview of the current context in which your research is situated by referring to contemporary debates, issues, and questions in the field. It includes a discussion of relevant theories and concepts which underpin your research. It introduces relevant terminology and provides definitions to clarify how terms are being used in the context of your own work. It describes related research in the field and shows how your work extends or challenges this or addresses a gap in the work in the field. Gap in work in the field. It provides supporting evidence for a practical problem or issue which your research is addressing, thereby underlining its significance. Okay, now coming to the example part, the first part. So here, how it provides a historical background for your research. There can be umpteen number of examples. I have taken up this one, where this research is on, as you can see, taken from the field of town and regional planning in post-war Britain, the war-torn post-war Britain. Okay, which was going through a period of disillusionment and disenchantment, and how lack of jobs, a lack of opportunities, a tremendous inequality in the economic between the economic classes, and all the promises of the Labour government, how it failed to fulfill themselves. And as we have read in a very succinctly in the drama like Look Back in Anger, Osborne's drama. And this post-war Britain and all the failure of planning and planning in policies of the government of how to restructure the devastated country, and how that finally did not meet up the expectations of the citizens. This was this topic of study. Now, this is a very big topic, not going into the topic, how the historical background and along with it, the theory of the postmodern, where the postmodernists have stressed on general foreboding of any universal authoritarian approach to implementing any policy. So here the researcher has come out with this study or with this finding that a large portion of this disappointment, this anger, this frustration actually arises because of a wrong approach that on the part of the British administrative head, where the authoritarian, totalitarian approach of implementing a one idea, one size fits all kind of idea, one size never fits all. So this is a convenient approach that was taken up by the Labour government, where they intended to implement it in a very authoritarian, totalitarian, and universal grand narrative sort of a way, and which definitely failed to address the multiple and the multi-layered problems of the different segments of the society, of the different segments of the gender issues, the class issues, and the other, more minor subtle issues, which the bigger planning failed to address. So, as we know that postmodern theorists have posited that how grand narratives are no answer and they are dead, and how meta-narratives are the call of the day. In the same way, even while planning, even when it is related to planning, policy making, town planning, this postmodern understanding of multiple layers of civilizations or citizens' need has to be addressed, should be kept in mind. So this is how the historical background and the theory has been welded to find such a very enlightening conclusion. Okay, now coming to the contemporary context. Okay, so contemporary context, here you have the example is from, again, child health. It's from sociology, but I will give you another example in which I am more proficient in. Supposedly, you are studying Abdul Razak Gurna. All of us know who Abdul Razak Gurna is. He is the Nobel laureate of 2021, and most of his novels deal with the migrant situation. the migrant aesthetics. So, supposedly a student who has taken up, a PhD student who has taken up Abdul Razak Gurna as his or her topic, reading the migrant situation, trying to understand its origin, how from the post-war, during the World War, how the containment and engagement policies of the countries involved in Cold War, how they gave rise to this migrant situation, and how the African diaspora and the migrancy of the African situation, East African particularly, is been delineated by Gurna, and how the migrants move and going out from their native countries of native and East Africa and going out to settle in Britain or America or Germany, and how the problems of acculturation, problems of acclimatizing gives rise to the whole diasporic aesthetics. This is the general idea. But this is something very universal, which most migrant author, most diasporic authors will address, as we know, whichever diasporic author you take up. But what is the contemporaneity that underlies Gurna's migrant aesthetics? If we look at how contemporary it is and how very topical it is, if we look at our own country and think about the desperate walk taken up by the migrant laborers, during the lockdown, we will very factually understand the pain. This contemporaneity can be established if the researcher wants the migrant aesthetics of Gurna's novel, which is dated back to history maybe 50 years ago, but the contemporary situation of migrancy is still so raving and so alive and so much in the force that we cannot ignore its contemporaneity and talk about the history. We will have to establish its contemporaneity by talking about all the literature or all the knowledge that we can gather from the contemporary, from the immediate situation where we still have such desperate migrant walks, such uprooting from the native land. It is not just a story which ended with 1947. We know the phenomena of being uprooted from one's native place is a continual process in different contexts, and I don't wish to go further in that, but we all know, in the name of different issues, in the name of citizenship rights, how people are being uprooted from their native lands where they have spent so many decades. So this issue of getting uprooted from one's native place on any pretext is both universal and contemporary, and no literature or no thesis on this issue can avoid this contemporaneity of the issue. Okay, now there are certain researches where some very specific terms are used, this is just an example. There are plenty of such terms which might be given to multiple interpretations. So it is useful, just a tip, you can think it like that. It is useful. I've also taken it from several other, people who are authorities in literature review. I have taken from them, and my whole study is based on a few authorities on literature review. So there I have found this tip, which is very helpful, that it is useful to discuss the terminology, some of them which we are using. Like here, the researcher has again talking about the language, the linguistic situation of a particular place in Africa, and there he's talking about diglossia and polyglossia. Now it is useful in the very beginning, as part of the literature review, to discuss diglossia and polyglossia. What is diglossia? Diglossia is just the division of society in two hierarchically split language functions: a high prestigious language, and the one which is spoken by the lower class, that is a lesser language. But it is not so bifurcated or binary as it seems to be. There is no just two variety, one spoken by the cultured people and the other, actually not just Africa. This phenomena holds true for every part of the world, even in our part, where we have a certain register, a certain parlance, which belongs to people who are cultured, people who are educated. The pronunciation itself varies, the choice of words varies, and the whole, the syntax vary, everything vary. So we know, even if a particular society, all of them are speaking the same language, maybe Bengali or Gujarati or Tamil, there will be a difference, isn't it? Difference between the classes, how they approach a particular language, and this difference is extremely visible, audible, and the difference needs to be studied. So there, when you study it in detail, when you study it with scrutiny, we will realize that it is not just about two divisions of hierarchy of one spoken by the one form of Hindi or one form of Bengali spoken by the elite class, and the other form of Bengali spoken by the lower class. Rather, what will emerge is that there are multiple classes. Even within the elite class, there are divisions. Even within the lower class, there are divisions. So it is better to address the situation as polyglossia. So where there are not just two forms of, spoken form, styles of language, rather multiple forms. So what I'm trying to say is that whenever you are using when we are using in any kind of research work, small or big, it is useful for us. It will be helpful if we slightly elaborate on the terminology, that some of them at least, in the portion of our literature review. Okay, I'm almost towards the end. The purpose of a literature review, again trying to sum up the whole thing, as I told you, when it is a graduate student is approaching a particular project, she can rest with a simple literature review. And what is a simple literature review? Where literature reviews have different purposes. If the purpose of the inquiry is to argue a position about a current state of knowledge on a topic. To begin with the one I told you, supposedly that BA student who took up Shakespearean sonnet is talking about the sonneteering conceit of immortality. Okay. One has to select an issue, isn't it? Because our answer, our project are not same. You can write critical appreciation of Shakespearean sonnet, but that is not a project. If you are writing a project on a Shakespearean sonnet, you have to take up a particular topic, whichever class you are reading in. So supposedly that BA student has taken up the sonneteering conceit of immortality. Now this is an already established concept that Shakespeare, Sidney, Spenser, and every one of them has established through their poetic conceit of immortality. How through poetry you ascribe immortality to the person who you are delineating in your, or who you have chosen as the object of your poetic dedication. For Shakespeare, we know Mr. W.H. and the Dark Lady, and for Spenser, who it was, his lady love, his wife, for Sidney, who it was. We know that each of them had a certain addressee in mind and how they wished to immortalize the addressee. So this is already an established knowledge. The research which further establishes this knowledge is a simple literature review. And that is what is done, because a graduate student is not expected much to add something very new, a very new perspective to the already existing knowledge system. That is what is expected out of a PhD or an MPhil student maybe. Okay, there also we cannot always claim that we have added something, because to add something entirely new is an extremely challenging job, which most often we try, but may not be with much success. So there, what we do is, where literature review, it's framed in a complex manner, where the established literature is studied and evaluated and interpreted in order to find a gap, so that we can add a further question, a research question. A research hypothesis might come out from this complex review that we will be doing of the existing literature. So that will be undertaken. This is a format of a simple literature review, which is rather simple, where the research interest, the research topic, literature review, and the research thesis, and there the already established knowledge system will be re-established by the researcher. Whereas in the complex literature review, there are 6 steps. There are actually plenty of steps where you not only study and review and evaluate and understand and already acknowledge your debt to the existing body of literature, but you also bring out the gap, the limit, or the lacuna, that is there in the available body of knowledge, so that you can now assert that yes, my research will fill this gap, this lacuna, and I do have a new perspective to offer to the academic world, in the academic map. So this is where you have to take up a complex literature review, and the conclusions drawn will obviously it will the whole our complex literature review will have to where we have to be very specific about our theoretical choices, the methodological choices that we take, and the findings will definitely be an addition to the already established body of literature that is there on that particular topic. I think, again, as a way of summing up, these are the 6 steps of a literature review. There are plenty of steps, as I told you, but just to make the thing look less intimidating, scholars have made things a little easy for us. But once we start doing it, we know that it is not at all an easy task. But it is very important to formulate in our mind that what will be our approach, at what stage of research we are in, and what will be our approach. What kind of research hypothesis are we aiming at? What is our objective? What is our research goal? So that will very much determine our approach to literature review and how we review the existing literature, how we wish to insert it, incorporate it, and how we wish to evaluate it as not just supportive document or supportive body of knowledge, but also a body of knowledge on whose basis we will be finding something new. Okay, so that is very essential, where our formulation of the entire finding of our thesis will finally actually come out. The research hypothesis, the research finding will actually come out of our continual engagement in a review of the existing literature, and from there how we are getting the perspective that we wish to posit as new. Okay, because after all, nobody exists in vacuum. We have to come out of what is already there, what is already existing. Okay, thank you. See, I have maintained time, and I have finished 5 minutes before.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Shall we move on to the question session now?
Yes, of course, of course.
Dear participants.
Hey, Babani.
Dear participants, if you have any doubts related to literature review and references, you can ask from ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes,
It was
yes.
wonderful to you. You spoke so mellifluously. I literally enjoyed so far the best of these
Oh
sessions.
God, I can't believe. I'm so thankful.
Maybe because it's of my domain, so I literally enjoyed a lot. Had it been a longer one, we could have enjoyed a lot. I mean, I learned a lot. Learned a lot from you. Thank you. It's been wonderful.
It's a huge honor, coming a feedback coming like this, where where at least one of you can tell that this is something that you enjoyed the most. I have no words to express the sense of honor that I feel.
I would prefer speaking the truth, ma'am. Literally, I've enjoyed. I've been listening to these many, what should I say, eminent speakers, but I enjoyed a lot. Your session was so far the best. You explained so well. You spoke so mellifluously, and you explained each and everything so well. I mean, it was quite enlightening. I learned a lot.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's an
Thank you
honor.
so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you so much. It's an
Welcome,
honor,
ma'am.
always.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
There is no question. Only I would like to say thanks of many thanks of for your presentation, because I have never thought about such a type of writing or thinking about literature review. You really opened my eyes such a wide way. Thank you. Thanks a lot for getting me.
I'm hugely grateful to Mr. Ajit Sylvest. If he is here, he should be listening to it, because if he not invited me, then I would have never got the opportunity to interact with people like you. I have spoken in plenty of FIPs, in plenty of RCs, but this is a kind of acknowledgement I have not got from anywhere. So mostly people do enjoy. I don't wish to speak good about myself in that way, but people do enjoy because I believe in making things very lucid, because I know, because I have also been in many seminars where eminent scholars come and bombard us with thoughts without properly structuring them. So the most important thing is to make things lucid for all. We are all teachers here, or wannabe teachers, students, teachers, wannabe teachers, and in our daily conversation also, our primary purpose is to make it lucid and make it properly conveyed. What is the use if we use bombarding language and things like that, and without example, and we keep on talking and nothing goes nothing goes inside the head of the addressee. So that is what I think we all of us learn in the course of our conversation at every step, conversing with a chauffeur, conversing with a cook, or conversing with a principal. Everywhere we have to learn to modify according to the demand of the situation.
Thank you, ma'am.
I think this is the upper edge that the people associated with literature have, ma'am. I hope you agree to it.
Yeah,
And
of course it's being partial,
I
but then
really
not.
appreciate
Yeah, but anybody can. Yeah, but agreed to you completely, Miss Lama. But anybody can, if they wish to attain this fluency. Anybody
it.
can. Anybody
Yeah,
can.
that's true.
Language is
Moreover,
everybody's.
yes, ma'am. Moreover, a lot of examples were quoted by you, and that made the things very, very comprehensible.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So
This
that
is
is where
enjoy.
every teacher, we take things from the existing knowledge system. We are not innovators, but we are facilitators. We have to color it and make it relevant through examples. Otherwise a student will find difficult to, if we give them the theory in verbatim, what will be the use if we don't relate it with life? So that is what is very essential.
Yes, ma'am.
Agree.
Because in the FTP session, definitely we are the students. So this is very very important for each and every lecturer that they should provide their
Absolutely.
PPT or etc. through the examples. Such a very convenient way to learn for us.
Absolutely, and that is it. We have to make things easy and relatable for our students, related to daily life, because after all, whatever we do, humanities or science, it's all meant for the betterment of our lives. And our cognitive our cognitive faculty is always more receptive to examples and relevance and lucid comparisons. And that is why we while addressing our students, we it will be very helpful if we use them in that way, because that is how human cognition works.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? Any other questions from participants?
Good evening, ma'am. No
Yes,
questions, but a compliment. Really enjoyed listening to you, and I would appreciate if the organizers share your email with us. So,
I will myself share. I should have
yeah,
done it before.
thank you so much.
Yeah, I will myself share my email and my phone number. Whoever wants me, I am always there for you in any capacity. Okay, I'm always there for any one of you in any capacity. You want me to talk in some session, you want to discuss something academic, I'm always there for you. Please take down my email address and my phone number. Where to give it? If I give it in the chat box, will it do? Should
Yes,
I
ma'am.
give it in the chat box?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
you can.
yeah.
Okay. I will give you my phone number, which is also my WhatsApp number, and also my email ID. Chat isn't, they are telling chat isn't available. Please take down my number, 98322 98322 78005. 98322.
Ma'am, could you share your email ID, please?
Yes, of course. Did you take down my number? I will now give my email
Yes,
ID.
ma'am.
Yes, 98322 This is my WhatsApp number, and my email ID is shar, all small, SHARMISTHA 25 at gmail.com.
Got it, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay. AR.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving us nice information through the example. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it has been such a sheer pleasure. I have no words to express. Probably this is also the platform that I have enjoyed most.
Oh, that's good. Great, ma'am.
Oh, very nice.
I hope to meet you
Thank
all
you.
sometime on a real platform.
Sure.
That's just a wish.
Thank you all
Sure.
participants, and once again, thank you, ma'am, from the bottom of my heart. Actually, there is no words
And
to
once again,
say. And yes, ma'am.
once again, tell your phone number, ma'am.
Yes, of course. I'll write the phone number. 98322
Yes, ma'am.
78
Yes, ma'am.
005.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Is it visible? I have written it also. 98322 78
Yeah, it's
005.
clearly visible, ma'am. It's clearly
Yes,
Yes,
visible.
ma'am.
this is also my WhatsApp number. And this 25 is the birth date of my daughter, not my age, unfortunately.
Can't believe you have a daughter. You look so young.
Thank you. Okay, this compliment I often get. My daughter is 11 years old.
Oh my God. Incredible, unbelievable.
And her birthday is coming just, on the right on the corner, 25th February.
Advance
Lucky
wishes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. It's just a day to remember. I have no words to say.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm
Now we
really
have come.
overwhelming.
Yes, ma'am. Now we have come to the end of the session. Ma'am, again, it's our duty to propose vote of thanks for your wonderful session. You have.
I've already got enough. I've got enough.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Even it's our duty,
We
ma'am.
have already done it to apart, sir.
I didn't ask for more.
You have really explained various approaches and different steps that should be followed in literature review by mentioning great works of literature, and you have very beautifully explained in such a way. We really thank you, ma'am, from the bottom of my heart. Ma'am, now we come to the end of the session, valedictory session. Now I request Mrudula to moderate the session.
Thank you, ma'am. Research can never end. Instead, researchers must constantly reflect and critique again and again. Traditionally, research starts with writing a grant and usually finishes with publishing a paper. But with all the discussion around translation and research impact, the goalposts are moving. Research impact being the ultimate thing we are trying to create, and if you ask one funders measure, the time has to come to draw a curtain to our program as we come to the close of it. A very good evening and a warm welcome to all of you to this valedictory session of International Virtual FDP on enhancing research and writing. On the 7 day series, we have had deep insights into several issues on research writing. We had scholars from local, national, and international levels enlightening us on this area. Thank you very much to you all. A warm welcome is the first sight of hospitality. Words of welcome fill an occasion with warmth and makes one feel that he is meant to be there. I now request our respected AVO, come head, Department of Computer Science, AVP CAST, Mr. S. Ashok Kumar sir, to give a red carpet welcome to everyone present here. Please, sir.
Good evening, all from India. Past 7 days, we have been witnessing great lectures from eminent personalities from countries like India, Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Philippines, and Portugal. Really, it was a wonderful 7 days of learning. Every good thing must come to an end. On this note, I am very happy to propose the welcome address for this 7 days faculty development workshop. So that means a valedictory address. I am very happy and delightful to welcome Rotarian, past District Governor 3201, Major Donor A. Karthikeyan sir for this valedictory session. Welcome you, sir. I would like to welcome Dr. M. Leelavati, Principal, AVP College of Arts and Science, who has consented to felicitate this valedictory session. Welcome you, ma'am. I would like to welcome Dr. L. Mahalakshmi, R&D Coordinator and Convener of this FDP function. Welcome you, ma'am. I would like to welcome Dr. Regin Silvest and his faculty members from Cape Comorin Trust who have associated with us for conducting this FDP program. Welcome you, sir. I'm very happy and glad to welcome all the learned faculty members, researchers, and participants from all over the world to this faculty development program valedictory session. Welcome you all.
Thank you, sir. The fragrance of the flowers spread only in the direction of the wind, but the goodness of a person spreads in all direction. The goodness of a human exceeds the flavoring of flowers. A great deed goes long ways. May I kindly request the chairman of AVP Institutions, Rotarian, past District Governor, MD, A. Karthikeyan sir, to deliver the presidential address.
Thank you, Murtala, for inviting me for this such a wonderful program. I have to appreciate Cape Comorin, President of Cape Comorin Trust, Dr. Regin Silvest, the founder, who arranged this speakers from all over the world in the many countries, almost 7 countries. It was a really learning platform for us. On behalf of AVP College of Arts and Science, I just thank the Cape Comorin and the faculties of the program. This 7 days, I also participated in many programs, and we had vast discussions regarding the paper presentations and all the different verticals of to develop the faculties and all. This was a wonderful program that was organized by Department of English. The coordinator of this program, Dr. Mahalakshmi. And the first day, the speaker, I have to thank Dr. Anish Vipillai, the assistant professor at the Cochin University, who discussed about the topic research in the digital age. That was a very great eye-opening, that program. Then the same day we had Dr. Kiran Nitari, the Presidency University Bangalore, who discussed with the theoretical framework in the literature. That was a wonderful program, the day 1. The day 2, we had Dr. Lima Rose, the professor and head research department of English, St. John's College, Nagarkoil. The topic she discussed was the construction of a thesis. That was also a wonderful program. And the same day we had the second day we had the second session chaired by Umeshwari Dakar, Shillong Long, Meghalaya, India. The topic legal research and its methodology was discussed by her. It was a wonderful eye-opening for all the programs. And we had the third day Narma Munir, and the University of Education, Beha Campus, Pakistan. The topic she was handling was how to write a research proposal. That was a wonderful narration that she has given. The same day we had the second speaker, Rahul Chauhan, Pearl Institute of Business Administration. Topic was the writing synopsis and abstract. It was also wonderful. On the day 4, we had Dr. Alexis. The topic and the research through intensive. That was also a wonderfully she handled well. The same day we had the second speaker was Dr. Abdul Ghaffar. The topic he handled was the preparing effective academic writing. He came from the Indonesia. So thank you, sir, for being a part in the program. And day 5 we had Luis. The topic he dealt with trends in digital and computing research. And the same day we had a second speaker, Prodhan, research networking. He is from the Bangladesh. And Luis, then sixth day we had Dr. Olinia from University of Kandri in Indonesia. She also had discussed with the topic writing conceptual research for undergraduate students. That was also a eye-opening session for UG students and all. And same day we had a second speaker. He's from the Department of Communication from Philippines. The topic STEM and research and in international hospitality and tourism management. So that was also a wonderful program. And today it was the last program. So the first session was chaired by Dr. Ramakrishna Kwane from the Deemed University, Visakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh. Topics was tale of reference. He gave a very good reference how the referrals from the library and the digital library, how we can use and how we can enhance ourselves. It was also a wonderful program. But last, not least, the Professor Sharmishra Das, Assistant Professor, Postgraduate Department of English, Hooghly, the West Bengal, India. The topic you handled was role of literature review in formulating research hypothesis and a short discussion. That was also wonderful. So I have to thank on behalf of the management, all the speakers did in their topic wonderfully. It was a very great eye-opening for everyone. It was an eye-opening for everyone. So this 7-day long session really the faculties of our college, we have around 70 faculties we have, and all over the rural area of colleges like us, because it was I have to thank this virtual platform, thanks, because otherwise we could have not met like this, and we could have not got your experiences and all. So that once again I have to thank the Department of English for organizing such a wonderful program. Sorry, I'm just sitting in the car and I'm just talking. I just came to a function, so I was not able to there and sit in the office. So once again, I thank on the bottom of my heart for the Cap Comrade Trust for organizing such a wonderful speakers. Really, we miss you all, and I hope that all the other departments like English department, the English also, you should also conduct such a wonderful programs, and it is must. I have to say it is a need of an hour, because we have to update ourselves in all areas so that we can bring and build a better community. For this wonderful program, I have to thank once again all the faculties who spared their valuable time and gave a wonderful experience of yours for us. Thank you once again, and I thank once again for for inviting me for this valedictory session. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. A pessimist complains about the wind, an optimist tries to change it, and a leader adjusts the sails. The sails for this particular notion were adjusted by a person who was not only a great motivation to all of us, but a visionary who is none other than our beloved principal, Dr. M. Leelavati Madam. Ma'am, I cordially invite you to present the felicitation address.
Very good evening to all of you. And this is a very special day for a college, and where this program is actually serving as an eye-opener for all the department people. and also the scholars, right? And to start this felicitation, I should start with a small story about our AVP Trust and our AVP College. Thiru A.P. Arunjyothi, who was the son of Thiru A.V. Palisami Kaunder, was a great landlord. And he had got a social awareness right from his a young age, and he wants to serve the society at large. That is why he had such a wonderful plan of starting AVP Trust. And Thiru A.P. Arunjyothi was inspired by the deeds of his father in different ways. And he wanted everyone to remember his parents ever after, right? So he established a trust on his father's name called AVP Trust. And this AVP Trust started 2-3 different schools. And finally, he started a trust called AVP Trust on his father's name, and also on his mother's name, AVP Lakshmi Ammal Trust, for the benefit of specially disabled children. And so this trust is always serving for the community at large. So in commemoration of celebrating a silver jubilee of AVP Trust School, and also about his father's name, Thiru A. Karthikeyan, the chairman of AVP Arts and Science College, the only son and the founder of this great institution, established a new trust on his father's name, A.P. Arunjyothi Educational Trust, and thereby he started this wonderful college. Though this college is situated in a very rural background, his vision is almost reaching the world. That is why we are able to have such a wonderful program for 7 days of FTP. And this FTP is an eye-opener for all the department people and especially the scholars, right? So being the chairman of this institution, AVP College of Arts and Science, Tirupur, he always encourages a lot of programs for the benefit of students and the staff members. So this FTP is one such program, and this faculty program usually intends to provide financial assistance to facilitate upgradation of knowledge usually, and also the skills, and intend to provide opportunities for the induction of training to teachers employed in all disciplines. So this faculty development program usually has got a skill development program, another way you can call, and this is specially designed for the academic educators. And that is why we had planned with Dr. Regin Selvinson, founder and president of Capcom Trust, and we wanted to have such a wonderful program for 7 days, and we had a plan and we initiated it. So today it is coming to an end. And about the programs, our chairman has given a detailed description of all the speakers. Just to cut short, I'm not going to speak about every speaker, but as a whole, all the speakers of all the 7 days, right? All the 2 speakers every day were wonderfully given their knowledge, they share their knowledge, and they facilitate the scholars and the new teachers, of course, with their knowledge. So this facilitation of knowledge with other teachers will definitely improve a vista for the young scholars and young teachers. I hope this has done that particular justification to all the teachers and the scholars, and research scholars and the teachers have got different ideas about how to start with their research work and how to go with the digital era work that has to be done. So first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Regin Selvin, founder of Capcom Trust, who have got a wonderful association with the AVP College of Arts and Science. And this has been brought by Dr. Mahalakshmi, the department, English department HOD and R&D coordinator. She has beautifully arranged all these days, all these programs. And thanks to Dr. Regin Selvin sir and also Dr. L. Mahalakshmi. And I also like to convey my thanks to all my fellow teachers of our AVP College of Arts and Science, have given a wonderful cooperation all these 7 days. Right? So I hope we'll have more and more such programs in future also. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Gratitude is the fairest blossom that springs from the soul. As we come to the close of valedictory session, I invite Dr. L. Mahalakshmi ma'am, coordinator, R&D cell, Assistant Professor and Head, Department of English, AVP CAS, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Matula. A cheerful evening to one and all once again. First of all, I thank the Almighty for the blessings poured on us to make the function in a perfect way. On behalf of my institute and my own behalf, I must mention a deep sense of gratitude for the guest speakers from various parts of the world who contributed the sessions with excellent presentations and explanations, and also poured plenty of knowledge on research from day 1 to day 7 to enhance our research skills. I thank all the great hearts from the heart of India for all your inspiring words. I thank our respected chairman, Rotarian, past district governor, MD, A. Karthikeyan sir, who graced with his presence and guidance for the entire program. Thank you, sir, for sharing with us your words of wisdom.